Hello, everyone, and welcome to another elite episode of the Get Authentic with Marcus show. My name is Marques Ogden. On today's episode, we are joined by Miss Meg McKeen. And you know what? Let's bring her on down. How you doing today, Meg?
So good. I have been looking forward to this. It's great to see you and be with you in this way.
I appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, Meg and I have met before. She's spoken at the same events I have, does a ton of insurance, great speaker, great facilitator. We're going to talk all about that here in this awesome interview. But first, Meg, first question, young lady. What does the word authentic slash authenticity mean to you?
I love that you ask this question and that we start here because I think it's going to give us lots of threads to pull in this conversation. But for me, authenticity is all about alignment. And it's alignment in the way that we see ourselves in the world, the people that we hang out with, the ideas that we share, the ideas that we take in, and really this belief in who we are and how we do the work and how we show up in the world that we do.
I like this. Alignment is a big thread when it comes to authenticity because if people know you are aligned with them, then what happens is they are much more likely to be authentic and real with you because they feel you're being real and authentic with them. 100%. So, Meg, please tell us a little bit more about your backstory leading up to the work you're currently now doing inside the insurance industry.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to chat. I will not bore your loyal listeners with my whole resume recitation, but I will say I have had a very interesting career here in the insurance industry from day one. So 27 years ago, I started as an intern and have been fortunate to wind through my path in different ways and do different things in the industry, but have always been here in the business in some form or fashion. 9 years ago, I had an interesting moment thinking about alignment and realized that the work I was doing, I was selling insurance as my vocation at the time and working for a good company, solid company, great reputation. I was compensated well. They liked me, they trusted me. I was loyal, they were loyal to me, but realized that there was a misalignment for me in terms of the work that I was doing and the way that I was showing up and really the journey that I was on as a woman. I had been through some things, as we all go through things that had really changed the way I saw myself in the world and the way that I wanted to be showing up. And I realized that I needed to make a change. Now we would call that burnout. We didn't have that language then, but that's exactly what I was experiencing, kind of showing up, doing what I needed to do to keep going, but also really struggling some mornings to get out of bed, to get out of the car, to keep showing up and performing in that way. And so I was very fortunate at the time. I did some good financial plan, take some time away, and I ended up taking a year to really heal from work that was not in alignment again with who I wanted to be in that season and came back around 8 years ago and launched the consulting firm that I now run. And I am a scrappy one woman show who helps insurance professionals to really embrace the humanity that we bring to all the different things that we do here in the industry.
Before we get into that, I'm going to want to ask you this next question.
Yeah.
How does being authentic and or showing authenticity help you in your chosen career path?
It's interesting because in many ways there's a before and there's an after for me. And I think about the before when I was working in a more traditional corporate environment where there was a lot of expectation about how I carried myself and the things that I would say, the things I wouldn't say, when I would speak up and when I would stay quiet. And really that was an extension of my experience rather growing up as a young woman in general. I am a people pleaser, rule follower, don't color outside the lines kind of gal. And so in this season, in this chapter of self-employment, but really discovering who I am and who I want to be as a woman navigating the world, that has really changed. And so I'm human, I am who I am, and I do still think about what other people think and I take in those opinions, but I weigh them differently now than I did before. And so authenticity now is the thread in everything that I do. It's one of the reasons I think you and I have connected is the things that I speak about when I'm on stage are the same things that I'm speaking about when I'm working one on one with a client, a small group, but even when I'm sitting and having a cup of coffee with a dear friend or navigating a tricky relationship dynamic with my partner. It's all related. And I will say it feels so good to not have to, again, perform or shape shift to become what the situation requires me to be. In business, we often celebrate that. But what I have found is that by leaning into my own authentic self, it surely alienates some people. But what it does do is it brings absolutely the right people in, kind of banging on my door, like, what's going on in there? I want more of that. And that feels really good.
Yeah, because ladies and gentlemen, and I hope you really got that from Meg's last segment, that if you're being authentic, yes, you may turn some people off, but that's okay. Because if those people aren't going to like it because you're being yourself, you don't want to be around them anyway. But as also Meg said, when you are authentic and you are yourself, you do bring in people that are banging on your door. We both have, Meg and I have a very dear friend that we both share that we love because he is authenticity at its truest form. Heath Sheeran. Heath is the same person in person, on the phone, on a podcast, on a stage. He's the same guy. And he's always supporting me and Meg. Like when I see Meg's post, and that's the thing. When I see Meg's post, I know her character, I know
Mm.
her quality. I can like the post without even having to read it because that's the type of relationship you have where you're always supporting your people. Because at the end of the day, so many people want to tear you down. When you find people who actually want to lift you up, those are the people you need to be making sure you focus on because those are the people you should be doing business and just doing life with in general. So, Meg, let's now talk about your work inside the insurance industry. You said you're a one person team doing
Yeah.
a ton in the business. Talk to us more like what is the name of your company? What do you all specialize in? Please tell us more.
Yeah, I love it. Before we go there, I just have to say, wouldn't it be wild if you and I and Heath were all in the same room? Like the energy might explode, but I can imagine all sorts of little light bulbs would go off for people in the audience. So the seed has been planted. And if you're a
Absolutely,
manifester, let's make
because I when I was we were in Kansas and I missed you because you had
Yeah.
just left. I was like I was so excited because I heard him speak, which he's
Yeah.
all and he's amazing. But I saw what you were planning on talking about. Like, oh, I'm gonna be there. Like, yes, and then I just missed you. Like, yeah. But like that's the type of energy you should want to be, not just spring, but be around. Like I
Yeah.
tell people, sales is all about energy and enthusiasm. Transfer your energy and enthusiasm onto other people. Great things happen. So anyway, Meg, let's continue. But again, because we can talk about this all day long.
I know. It's so fun. So yeah, flashing forward, the name of the business, Adjunct Advisors, it was available when I bought the website. It really has little to do with the business itself, but most people are thinking of me and again, my brand, my voice, the things that I talk about in this human capital space when they're thinking about me in the insurance industry. And the work is different. It depends on the season, the day, my energy, what I'm interested in, what I think the industry needs right now, but all of it is in service of the insurance industry and the people that work here. So that's first and foremost. Right now, the things that I am doing, some sales coaching. I know you do that as well. Mine is mostly in a cohort situation. And
Mhm.
so we're really layering what is the experience that we are having as people in our lives, in our world right now, and how is that showing up in the way that we're connecting with other people and ultimately growing our books of business and insurance. I do a lot of speaking, as you mentioned. Right now, we're just coming out of the Women in Insurance conference season. And so that has been a very busy time in the best way for me. And I'm starting to negotiate those contracts for the fall and the spring as well. On a personal passion, a lot of work I do is as a consultant for other groups, but I do have things that are offered through my own brand, if you will. And I host a podcast as well. And that launched 6 years ago. We just hit 100 episodes. It is the thing, as I imagine you can relate, that I'm most proud of, but it doesn't, in my case, directly pay the bills, so to speak. And so I've always been playing with ideas. How do I continue to use the really beautiful conversations that we're starting on the podcast and get them out further into the world and create some experiences around them? So the podcast is going on tour again this fall. I'll be in the Midwest hosting small in-person gatherings for women in the industry in all sorts of different places throughout the Midwest. And I'm also hosting some retreats this fall for small groups of women as they figure out all the different things that we might navigate in our lives and in our business. So, taking some chances, trying some new things, finding the things that are really, again, in alignment for me and the creating the spaces, frankly, that I want to hang out in. And also really grateful for the people that are out there saying my name in other places and giving me things to think about and new opportunities to consider.
Meg, I love this. And let's start with the sales coaching, right?
Yeah.
You talked about that. You know, when you're working with people, what do you find is the biggest common struggle or issue that they need to have resolved? And how do you help to coach and or teach them how to solve what you kind of come to see as that common thread problem?
Yeah, there's so many layers to this, and I feel like you and I could riff for hours and also release a masterclass as a result with your ideas in mind. But it's interesting because typically it's an urgency. So there's been some sort of expectation put on them, and I'm thinking about somebody who's just starting out. So maybe they're even fresh out of school or brand new to the industry or have a little bit of experience maybe in another industry, but we're not always really honest with people in terms of insurance sales, how long it takes to really build a book of business that is healthy and sustainable. And so you might have 6 months or even 18 months. I find 3 years is really the sweet spot where you can start to breathe a little bit. But often we've got uh, income that's going to dry up. We've no money's coming in. Therefore, we've got to make some tough decisions. The organizations we work for want to make sure that their investment's going to pay off. And so there's a mismatch there of expectations versus reality. And I see a lot of people struggling with their worth, with their confidence, with their value. And so those are really the three things that I coach to. It's interesting because I don't believe that people don't know how to prospect. I don't think they need more help making cold calls or all of the different ways hosting raffles at your local diner or running Facebook ads. I think it's what do you do on the days when it's not working or you think it's not working and you're ready to throw in the towel? What do you do then? And so I mentioned, and I believe this, it's the common thread, it's the through line of everything I do is we're humans having human experiences and it doesn't change just because you're selling insurance. You're still going to feel a lack of confidence. You're still going to feel self-doubt, just like you did the first time you I don't use sports analogies in my business, so it's so interesting talking with you about this. But the first time you were a beginner at anything, it was hard and it was clumsy and it maybe didn't go the way you wanted it to go in the beginning. And so really meeting people and holding them in that space so that they keep going is ultimately what we're doing together. And of course, building good books of business that are sustainable and healthy and will provide for them in the lifestyle that they're striving for is all a good byproduct of that, but I start with the human first.
You know what, Meg? I wrote this down. People buy from people
Yeah.
that they like and know and trust. And that's huge because if people don't like you or don't trust you, they're not going to buy from you. They're not going to work with you. They're not going to give you their money or their time or their resources. It's not going to happen. Okay, love this. So
Yeah.
now let's shift to your keynote speaking, right, Meg? You speak on a lot of stages. I watch your LinkedIn from this conference to that one. It's just so awesome to see. What do you speak on? Like, what is it that Meg loves to speak on that she can customize her keynote presentations to deliver maximum value to her clients?
There's a couple things right now that are resonating, and thanks for the chance to share. The topic right now that I'm having a lot of fun with is navigating a new relationship with success. And kind of a sidebar is also change because the two are so interconnected. It just depends on what the audience is really looking for. But I certainly, as a young woman, had a very traditional view of change: marriage, kids, white picket fence, career, stability. And then life went in all sorts of different directions. And I did experiment with those things, some of those things, and others were not for me. But really arrived at a point in my life and my career where I wanted to write some new rules to the game. And frankly, I wanted to stop playing a game altogether because it wasn't a game that I was interested in playing and it didn't feel good and right for me. And so talking, I break some rules as a speaker, and I'd be curious what you think about this too. I do tell stories about myself. We're supposed to make the audience the hero of the journey, and at the end they are. But I do also believe, as a coach and as a human, that stories connect us and that we have to be willing to go first. And so if I stood in front of you and said, just do these three things and you'll find success in your life, nobody would believe me. But if I tell them about the three times that I tried and it didn't work, but look at me here standing in front of you, it's much more compelling. So, the other component to whatever the topic might be when I'm speaking, there is no other version of me, just like we talked about when we were talking about alignment and authenticity. There isn't another version of me that's going to meet you for coffee. It's this one. And so, when I'm standing on stage in front of you, it ends up feeling like a conversation, not a lecture, not a presentation, but more of a conversation. And that's why at the end of a session, someone will always grab me and say, I don't know how you do it, but it felt like you were speaking just to me. Like this whole room, this whole big cavernous conference center was empty except for you and me. And to me, success, right? That's what I'm looking for, is to be able to create that feeling of intimacy and connection, even in a big, noisy, complicated space.
Meg, if you're not telling your story, if you're not telling people who you are or what you've been through or the ups and downs in your life, then why would they listen to you? They're
Yeah,
not
right?
going to. They're not. And my personal story is told in every keynote: my rise, my fall, my comeback. Now, I don't talk about it for a long period of time. In a 1 hour keynote, maybe about 3 to 5 minutes, I'm talking about my upbringing, going to college, the NFL, the struggle, what I learned after during the NFL, my time retiring, struggle, all that, business failure, bounce back, all this. Absolutely. And everything that I do, right, Meg? Every story that I tell about my personal story has a tie back to the theme of the event. So 100%, any speaker I feel that's telling you that not to tell your story is a speaker that I feel is probably not hitting the mark, or a speaker that's just trying to come across as perfect, or that everything they do is tip top 5 star and there's no trouble because they don't want to share the real them. If people don't know the real you, then again, right, Meg, I truly don't believe they're going to listen to you when you're trying to teach them about how to do better in their own life. So kudos to you for telling your story, because I tell mine all the time, always, in every talk. I just make sure that it's tied back to the theme. This way, the audience can use my story, my wisdom, my experiences, and look at it in their life and how they can do better in their business or their journey or their walk.
Yeah.
100%. Make sense? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, it sure is easier, isn't it? I mean, I lived it and I get to I don't tell all the gory details of every story. I still have boundaries and I think those are really important. But
Sure.
I do think, and it's interesting because we've been able to connect through social media, people would be really disappointed if I showed up on stage perfect and polished, because I don't show up that way anywhere else. That would be very inconsistent. But I also think we live in a world that's very one note right now, where a lot of what we're seeing on social media is the highlight reel. It's the best of the best. And the reality, as you and I well know, is life is moments like that, but the rest of it, we're all just trying to figure it out as we go. And so I'm not, I certainly do the posts, look at me. I went to this event, it went great, blah, blah, blah. it's important for the growth of the business and for people to see me in that capacity, but I will never not include the parts that are less than perfect and that show my imperfections, because we all have them. And I do think that, for a woman who's already arrived, or a man, wherever they're wanting to go, who has reached their own level of success, good for you. And I mean that with total sincerity. If all the puzzle pieces of your life are exactly positioned the way you want them to be, I love that and I support that. But the vast majority of us are not there. And we're not necessarily looking for the expert to show us the way, but can you show me the next step on my path? And that's what I try to do in all of these interactions. Is your life for so many reasons is going to look wildly different than mine, and it should, but there are so many brilliant ideas that we are sitting on because we're not taking action. And so can I show you personified what it looks like to maybe go left when the world tells you to go right, and see what happens?
Ladies
Yeah,
and
it's good
gentlemen,
stuff.
this is great. I mean, this is exactly why Meg gets hired to speak so much and why her cohorts are full and why when she posts on social media, tons of people are engaging and saying that was a great point, great speech, great talk. This is exactly what it's all about. Nobody is perfect. No one. So don't try to be, because perfection is not reality. Perfection is not attainable by any means. So this is everything that you want to have. And so at the end of the day, I'm so excited to have Meg join us. I'm so excited to talk with her about, we're going to talk more about maybe doing a master class or doing something around sales or perspective or, or collaboration or connection. So lots of opportunity here. And so I'm so excited for her and for what she's doing and how it aligns beautifully to what we are doing. Meg, if our audience wanted to get in touch with you, how do they go about doing so?
It's a little choose your own adventure, depends on what you're looking for. So, my website, adjunctadvisors.com, is kind of the all in one, the ways that I connect with business professionals. It's also where you can register for events and learn more about the podcast and things like that. I do write pretty prolifically on LinkedIn and talk a lot about my entrepreneurial journey, all the different things that I'm up to in my business from a much more casual perspective. And then lately, I've been having some fun over on Instagram. And one of the things we didn't talk about, 5 years ago, I left Chicago. I sold my home and all my stuff, and I started traveling full time. And so I've been dipping my toes in the content creation realm and have been sharing some reels and just little insights and tidbits that I've picked up along the way as a full-time traveler. So having some more creative fun over on Instagram. And I am Meg McKeen on all of the platforms. Pretty easy to find.
Awesome. 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 Well, ladies and gentlemen, please reach out to Meg, connect with her, follow her journey. You have an insurance event coming up, you need a speaker, you want a cohort to go to, give her a call, reach out to her and connect with her. She has a lot of great things going on, and you'll be so glad that you did. The authentic tip of this great interview: in life, learn to dance and to go and to be to your own tune, to who
Mm.
you are. Don't try to be somebody else. Don't try to conform. Don't try to transform. Be yourself. Who you are is way more than enough. Just have courage, belief, and self confidence in yourself. When you do that, everything else takes care of itself. Again, my name is Marques Ogden. I am the host of the Get Authentic with Marques show. Thanks for tuning in. Have a fantastic day.